going on, everyone? And welcome back to All New Nerds podcast number 70
something. 73, I'll say. 73.
I'm usually on top of this, actually, and I have no
Yeah,
idea.
you're the guy.
I know. I usually check before we start recording, but I did not. So it's 70 something. If you're watching this, you probably know from the title.
I think it's 73. That's my guess.
But of course, I'm here with Bevi Lond.
Bevi Lond and
Gibbs. Bevi Lond for a while. No Johnny today. But that's not going to stop us from talking Acolyte.
No,
because
some juicy
juicy
photos. Some Ben's coming at me before the show saying he's dropping Buryaga Agaberry, but I'm going, whoa, hey now, you haven't read those books. You don't know what you're talking.
Shout out Brent Ajagrogu for he was the one who mentioned that.
Did he? What'd he say? I didn't see that.
He said that he thought it was Berry Goo Goo, whatever.
Berry Goo Goo. Hanabubu child and somebody Berry Goo Goo. I'm sure Brent probably said it like that. Yeah. No, I mean, I think, well, there's a number of things. But yeah, so there was some Acolyte set photos because they're filming over in Wales. They're actually filming in the same place that Willow shot, as well as in Pinewood. So, because I imagine they were probably like location scouting for Willow, and they went, oh, we could use this for Star Wars. And so they are shooting on location. And so obviously, if it's an open set, people can snap photos. So there's been some photos of there. So that's I think that's like the Star Wars news of the day. We talked about Jedi Survivor a lot already on the stream, and then we did a Game Awards stream. So maybe we can talk about it a little. I'm not sure much has come out besides.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to talk about Survivor, honestly.
I mean, maybe the High Republic connection. I don't think we've discued that on video yet.
The High Republic connection.
Happen. I think most of the Survivor stuff is like you just gotta wait and see because it's a game and you're gonna have to understand it through playing the game. It's not like a movie where you can piece stuff together. It's like a 25-hour, 30-hour experience that is.
Ooh, I hope it's that long, man.
Well, in terms of like
Fallen Order,
I'll be doing the side missions and like reading the intel.
Yeah, I know, but still, that was like a 6 to 7 hour game.
Really, I see. Fallen Order took me like 14.
If you play it through though, like if you go and skip the whole Venator like crash section.
Oh, see, I didn't skip anything.
No, neither did I. I'm just saying when you talk about the length of a game, usually it's just the main game.
But I can never understand how people do that. Like
I agree. Yeah. I think that's just the standard. But whatever.
Either way, I'd say it's at least probably double 6. I mean, I bet it's at least 12 of straight story. For this huge sequel, like EA's most successful single player. I bet they loaded the budget in. Anyway,
I hope so.
Point being is it's a lot harder to connect the dots on video game story than it is with a movie or TV show story. So we can maybe talk a little bit. But there's also some James Gunn. He's been firing it. Friend of the show, Den of Nerds, on Twitter. Not just him though, not just Josh. A lot of people. He's been because ever since there was that big THR story that broke our last podcast, I want to say recording where Wonder Woman got canceled, and then James Gunn responded to that with a huge thread about how some of it was true, some of it wasn't true. So obviously another week, another fucking DC shit show. It happens.
Yeah, what's new? Honestly, I bet it's been about like 10 weeks running now that we've talked about
every pod. It's like
every pod is like DC's work. In the last pod, I think was like titled like DC is like looking good.
Yeah,
shout out Johnny for that one because like
yeah, we're like what is
like,
it?
What I think we debunked that.
Well, I think it's fair though for him to have put it in there from his perspective because there's a lot of fans who think that this James Gunn revitalization means a lot for the brand, but from my perspective it's like all you're doing is arguing on Twitter. You won't feel the effects of anything he has to say for years.
No, definitely, like I'm glad that James is in. He got some extra points with me recently in the way he handled this whole Henry Cavill situation. I'm glad like that is all looking good, but as Levi points out, we're about 2 to 3 years away from seeing the impact of that because we got to get through all these other movies that no one really cares about. And there's all these canceled movies, but we'll get to that. I want to talk about Acolyte because we got some pictures, and honestly, they're looking pretty good.
Yeah, this is from set photos. I don't know how long to my memory, you didn't really look at Star Wars leaks until more recently.
Not until about Kenobi.
Around Kenobi, you stayed away from it. But in the long history of leaked set photos for Star Wars, which runs very, all the way back to Return of the Jedi. With the sail barge shooting in the desert. This is the most excited set photos have ever made me be.
Wow.
Yeah, because we got for Andor, we knew like we saw in there we had like the shore trooper and Cassian on the beach, and obviously those scenes turned out to be just that. They were scenes, and I love Andor's my new favorite Star Wars thing, but like those set photos didn't really indicate a lot about the scope or story of the show. And well, Stork, he'll interact with a short trooper. That's cool. Or for Last Jedi, like we saw all the Octo stuff or Praetorian Guards for I don't know. There's been a ton.
For
Yeah,
Mando or
yeah.
Last Jedi.
I would say
That
for
got
Last
me
Jedi,
hyped.
but there's been and Brando as well. But there's been a ton of set photos over the years, and yeah, none have made me more excited than this. Just because, and why not? I'll share them. I'll get them ready to go here. It's something about because this show will be the earliest we will have ever seen in the Star Wars timeline, and so this is on Bestman Bulletin. Shout out to Bestman Bulletin. Always getting the good scoops.
Yeah, get right in there.
Getting right in there. The Acolyte. So there is Lee Jung Jae, who is the star of Squid Game, and he is wearing this fucking beautiful gold robe right out of the High Republic. I mean, this is, to me, and he's got the suite you see in the second photo here. Like you can see his arm. He's wearing either he has a robot arm or he has like bracers under his armor, which just that design, like him with the hood and the glove.
Yeah, that's a robot arm for sure.
Like, oh, it looks so good. I love that. Like, just look at that. Like, that's a Jedi, man. That's a Jedi in the woods.
The gold robes are just. I'm liking it.
I'm liking it. I don't know if it is a robot arm because there's another photo where it's on the other hand. Like, I think he's wearing armor actually on, his arms, like Clone Wars style kind of thing.
Interesting.
Either way, it gets me just super excited. I'll scroll through quickly. Another Jedi. Look at with the Padawan braid. Like, oh, it's so prequels. It's so prequels, but with on practical locations, and it feels because we talk about it all the time, but at least I do. But Leslie Headland always cites Phantom Menace as her biggest influence for the show in terms of the Star Wars movies, and I'm feeling that with this. I'm feeling that.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
And that there in the corner, who's getting their costume done up, is Amanda Stenberg, who we think plays the titular Acolyte. So from this article, Lee Jung Jae here is her former master, and she is the former apprentice, but her loyalty to the order is dubious. That it's former apprentice in the context of not that she's a knight now, but that she's no longer in the order. So we'll see. Look at this, like, oh, some Star Wars. She got looks like a blaster and a bow, and I don't even know. I just love the Zabrak here. Zabrak, like royalty.
You see the Wookiee right there.
The Wookiee.
He's my favorite. This is my favorite
Look at
pick
this guy.
right here.
Looking like a Bigfoot.
With
Bigfoot
the top
sighting.
knot.
Hey, people were kind of clowning on this, but I love this.
I know, but oh, come on. I think it looks a little like goofy. Like I can see why people like think it's goofy, but
it's Star Wars.
Once you see it, and
look at the size of this character.
I think it's just the top knot a little bit. I think that's why.
I like it though.
He's like a man bun. No, I love it too. That's my favorite pick. From that angle, like I think it looks a lot better. But
this is my favorite pick because you can see here in the foreground like a speeder bike that he's probably about to get on, like Wookiee Jedi on a speeder bike.
Yeah, this is huge, man. Because I'm a Lobaka fan through and through.
Lobaka, yeah.
Huge Lobaka guy. It's my origin Battlefront name is Lobaka.
Is it really?
Yeah, I'll be rolling through Battlefront 2, just smoking people. It's Lobaka.
Lobaka,
you big profile picture with his bronze saber, so dope. Come on, this guy, he better have a bronze saber.
I didn't know until now how big of a Lobaka fan.
I know. You can start giving me Lobaka stuff instead of Axe Woes.
Nah, you're always gonna get Axe Woes.
Yeah,
you're getting Axe Woes to the day you die.
I hope this Wookiee here has a bronze lightsaber or like orange. They can make orange, like you can see it in live action, maybe.
And I know it's incredibly nerdy and technical, but just the way that the camera rig is set up, where it's going to be pulling out as the Wookiee comes at the camera and gets on this speeder bike, is what it looks like the shot is going. Like, that's just cool. That's cool, man. It's a Wookiee Jedi.
And the bricks in the background.
And the bricks and yes, yeah, all the screws.
There's so many bricks and screws in this photo, guys. So I'm gonna say 0 out of 10 in this project. Starting now.
No potential. But yeah, just seeing like already in this in these photos, I think there's been more prominent alien characters than in Andor. which is not a diss to Andor, but in terms of how it's just gonna feel
No,
like
yeah,
prequels, man.
it's gonna feel very prequel.
It's gonna feel so prequels.
Just seeing all these Jedi together, maybe some Sith.
Because people wanted Kenobi to feel prequels. Kenobi was the one. Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show, was going to be the one that people's expectations were. This is going to be the prequel show.
It didn't look like the prequels at all,
and it wasn't at all.
It could be further away. The shaky cam, like
I was okay. Hold on. The shaking cam was a little part of it, but I was watching it the other day because even though it's my least favorite Star Wars show, I still like it. I still do find a lot to love in Obi-Wan Kenobi.
yeah, I think it's mine too. Now that you mention it,
The way that I've come to like the frame that I look at it through is it feels way more. I just watched the first episode the other day just because I love that first episode. It feels way more like A New Hope than it does anything in the prequels. Like the way it's shot, the way that some of it's just kind of flat in camera where there's not a lot of depth to the shots, but there's still a lot going on. Like, oh my God, there's an alien back there, but it doesn't emphasize it. It just sort of is. But it has this, because of the budget, it has this cheap quality, but it's also kind of endearing in certain ways where you're like, oh my God, it's Ewan McGregor and he's in this amazing outfit that I love, but here he is talking to this Jawa in this very fake cave. It's like there's something about it that feels A New Hope. Like it feels like that's just like the inside of Obi-Wan's hut. Like the inside of Obi-Wan's hut is one of the worst sets in all of Star Wars, in my opinion. I hate that. That may be a hot take of mine, but I think that like that hut that he has is one of the goofiest sets. Like
I mean, I don't know if I could pick out my least favorite
they're just like
set,
but it feels it's got like a New Hope vibe. Like it matches that same like what's happening in Obi-Wan's
okay,
hut.
I think you're being too harsh on New Hope. I think Kenobi looked way worse than A New Hope.
Well, okay, I would. Well, I don't know.
Especially if you're looking at like 4K restoration and just
sure.
like
All I'm saying is that the vibe of Kenobi, it matches thematically and tonally
right.
the OT way more than the prequels. Where I think the point I'm going to get to is this, like, oh my God, all of these images. You know, I'll get to the next one here. Like the Scream prequels. So some of these characters look like bows with sheaths, and they're gonna quivers, and they're gonna come. I guess they're gonna like maybe fight Jedi. Like, are Jedi gonna be coming to this world to either protect or save the Zabrak character? This female Zabrak is clearly the person of
Zabrak
import
with hair. Sort of.
Zabraks have hair though. Female Zabraks have hair. They're just usually the ones we see have it pulled up in a top knot, like Sugi in the Clone Wars.
Sure.
She has hair in the back. So
yeah, but live action, the first time we've seen this, little jarring, I think.
Oh, to me, I love it. I think it fits right in. Now, some people are saying that this is right here is Daphne Keene, and I think those people are crazy because I don't think this looks anything like Daphne Keene. Also, Daphne Keene is 4'11", so I don't know. Like Daphne Keene is in X-23, from Logan, who has been cast in the show. People are like, oh, it's her. No, yeah, I don't think that is.
I'm with you. That's not her.
Sorry, Bespin. Yeah, look, yeah. Daily Mail believes to be Logan star Daphne Keene. Absolutely not. I guess yeah. Bespin also said does not look like the actress. I agree. Like who I don't know who thinks that. Yeah, sorry. I think that's a little bit goofy. But yeah, overall, like the potential in these images. Yeah, this one, man. Something about it. Something about just a Wookiee main character, even if it's not main character, but relevant enough to be at least like a side character in an episode. You know, like a Kino Loy equivalent.
Ooh, Kino Loy.
Brasso equivalent in terms of screen time. Like here's this Wookiee Jedi, like the side character Wookiee Jedi. He'll have a couple of cool moments. That's awesome. That's something we get. We don't. That's something as we brought up. We'll get to now. Some people think this is Burryaga from the High Republic books and comics, who I don't think it is. We have yet to know his fate. At the last we saw him, he was either sucked into the vacuum of space or eaten by a Rathtar. So his fate is not looking good. He went down with the ship on Starlight Beacon. So he could be alive, but it's dubious.
So maybe they're adapting Lobaka into canon, and he's born 100 years earlier, and this could be Lobaka.
Also, the gray or lighter tone on his beard there, or like the center right below his mouth, makes me think this is an older Wookiee. To me, this just looks like an older Wookiee. I don't know if. Well, I don't know actually. Now that I'm really looking at him, I'm really staring at this Wookiee. Do you see the gray in the hair, or is that just
Yeah, no, I see it. I see it.
okay?
It looks like more blonde either. I would actually argue this is a younger
The younger
Wookiee.
Wookiee. I know. The more I look, I'm like, maybe this is a
It's a
younger
young man. This could be like a 20 to 30-year-old Wookiee.
equivalent. Well, if that were the case, then this might be Buryaga, because that would, he's just a Padawan in the time of the High Republic, and that would be 100 or so, 132 years
What
before this.
This is Gunji's dad.
That would also be funny. It's Gunji. Some people like were saying like, oh my god, it's older Gunji. I'm like, do you understand how time works? This is Gunji.
Not right, guys. Sorry.
Gunji ages.
Sorry to anyone saying that.
Gunji ages in reverse.
You're just wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna leave it on this image because this is the one that captures my imagination the most. Just like a guy, like the AD probably. Yeah, we did. There's not too much. I mean, there is also some Andor season 2 set photos, but they're not that deep. And skeleton crew actually.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Oh, with this one?
No, one below it.
Oh, this is I don't know. It's a Star Wars thing.
It looks like a tank.
I think
like the treads.
Yeah, I think the prevailing theory is this is like going to be a farming vehicle of some kind.
A droid.
Farming droid. Here, let me pull up
pull up the Andor stuff. I haven't seen this. Even though it's not deep, man. Andor is just so amazing. I want to take a look.
There are also some skeleton crew photos as well, but they're all I mean, they're kind of interesting. It's just the ship that they have.
Hey, well, we're on the photos. Let's photo it up.
Yeah, photo it up. Big photo pod.
Gibbs live reaction to this stuff because I haven't seen it.
Here you go. Let me clear out the ads, the pop-up ads.
You don't have an ad blocker on, my friend?
I don't. I know it's kind of disappointing. But all right, here we go. All right, look at this guy. Here we go. Pilgrim season 2, crowd only.
Pilgrim.
So this bridge here, people think they're rebuilding Ferrix.
Bricks and screws.
A lot of bricks and screws. I don't know. They're just.
Okay, so just a bunch of Star Wars stuff.
Just a bunch of Star Wars stuff. I mean, honestly,
you weren't joking.
No, I wasn't joking.
That is not deep at all.
No, some people think this is Ferrix. I mean, once again, though, you can see how much they're actually building. This archway and this wall. Like they're just constructing whole places. I don't know if you've ever seen. Have you seen like the top-down view of what Ferrix looked like? Like the whole set.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's crazy.
I mean, they like built like a city.
It's crazy what they did.
Mini city. Well, you know what? Just as far as Andor speculation goes, I am okay with not seeing Ferrix again. I think we got a perfect beginning and end to Ferrix. I don't think we need to go back. Maybe a flashback or something. I can't see why they would even go back at, so.
Oh, there is another story, Star Wars story that we should probably cover.
Ooh, Star Wars.
And it's I mean, it's not a good one though, and it segues pretty well with the DC stuff. But in the aftermath of that Wonder Woman story, I think it was Jeff Snyder. Here, I can pull it up just to be sure. I want to give him proper credit because he gets tons of scoops right, and definitely deserves. Yeah, it is Jeff Snyder. Jeff Snyder is the guy. For those of you who only really follow this podcast, he's the one who broke way back in like April that Damon Lindelof was working on a Star Wars movie, and then it didn't get confirmed until like 6 months later. He's former Collider. He's in the know. The guys know what's up. So after the whole Wonder Woman like collapse, Wonder Woman 3 explosion, he's hearing a lot of things about not only that but Rogue Squadron and what happened for that to fall apart and for Wonder Woman to fall apart. So this is just spark notes off the top of my head. I don't know if you've heard this, but apparently Patty, she delivered the draft to Warner Brothers. That was like, well, they didn't like it, and they're like, hey, can you rewrite it with studio notes? And she responded she sent them, I don't know if you heard this, but a Wikipedia link to the character arc page. They got really mad. Like, hey, like, please rewrite this. And she left the project. And so it was more Patty leaving. And then we started to hear some stuff about Rogue Squadron. And well, here, I'll just read you the quote. I heard it's a fucking nightmare. I get it. I hate to be a guy calling woman a nightmare, but my God, I've said that about countless male directors. So like, I've heard the Wonder Woman script she turned in was a mess. I heard Rogue Squadron was a mess. Like, what do you want from me? And then it goes on to,
Patty.
It goes on to talk about how she just couldn't get anything like across creatively, um, which is a shame. But people then started to point out, because it also seems, well, no, I don't know if I want to go conspiratorial with it, but the facts is
No, do it.
the facts
We're
is
speculating.
she directed Monster, good movie, good. She's good. I think she has talent. I believe that personally. But she directed that in like 2006 or whatever. Doesn't do anything besides a couple episodes of TV. So for 10 years, she doesn't do anything with movies. Then does Wonder Woman, and is like, now I got it. Like, I'm hot shit. Like, give me control. They give it to her with Wonder Woman 84. Everyone hates the movie. I don't. I like the movie.
Yeah, it's just I'm gonna draw attention to that Wonder Woman hot toy up in the top right of Levi's screen.
I do
The
like the film.
The ugliest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
I passionately disagree. You know the other version of it is coming out. The Wonder Woman 84 hot toy is coming out, and I will be buying it. I will buy
Oh
it.
my god, Levi! Oh god, you're
I
trying to
like
hurt
it.
me.
I like it. I like Wonder Woman. I like Gal Gadot.
Yeah,
I like
no,
that
the
movie.
new Wonder Woman was not good. Pedro Pascal was all right, but it's like it's not like yeah, sure.
Life is good, but
I
it
can
could be better.
derive some enjoyment from that movie. It's not awful.
Doesn't
but
matter.
It is
that wasn't-
not a good script. It's not a
Yeah,
good
I
script.
wasn't trying to turn this into a Wonder Woman 84
No,
defense
I know
session.
you aren't. And
I'm saying most people did not like it, and people were like, "Hey, we didn't like it," and so she doesn't direct anything for a while, and then people, this is the conspiratorial stuff, and it's not necessarily a conspiracy, but Zack Snyder is confirmed to have a huge part of that first Wonder Woman movie. Like, Patty directed it, yes, but she didn't write it. I mean, she has like, it's nebulous how Zack Snyder was involved with that movie and who else was helping, and because it does kind of, it feels like it's part of the Snyderverse. Like that one, it feels like
yeah,
it feels Snyder. And so people, it's similar to like Gareth Edwards and Tony Gilroy on Rogue One. Like people at this point after Andor, people just say that's Tony's movie. Like, but at the time, like it was, oh, Gareth Edwards directed this. I mean, he didn't really. Like he did. That's not,
I think I see you're going with this.
Yeah, so it's like, was she ever like, or now the sort of counter conspiracy is that people just really don't like Patty Jenkins and they're trying to smear her and take her down. But I buy that one.
I'm gonna say I don't buy that. I'm gonna say what I do buy.
Yeah,
listen, we know that there are directors out there. You see a movie, you see who directed it, you go, they did a great job. That's a good movie. There's a lot that goes into making movies, guys. There's a lot of different moving parts, a lot of different people with influence on a movie. A director could just be absolutely awful and hinder the performance of a movie. But if you have a super strong script, it can be saved in the editing room. Things can go right, even if you have an awful director. So it's hard to say at times how good someone really is. And if we're looking at Patty Jenkins, I haven't seen Monster. Levi says it's good. I'll trust him on that one. I think that Wonder Woman 1 is like all right, and we don't even know how much she had to do with that movie. Wonder Woman 84, don't like it. A lot of people don't. So maybe Patty Jenkins is not a good director. Is it possible?
That maybe
she's not a good writer. Maybe she's not a good writer, right? Because all the way back to Rogue Squadron, I was somewhat excited at the idea, but it getting sort of shut down by the studio did not. I had faith in corporate in this scenario. I was not like on Patty's side.
And here, before you continue, let me just give you the little paragraph. Rather than the film being unceremoniously canceled, instead, it's been reported that director and co-writer Patty Jenkins walked out after clashing with the studio. According to the sources, Jenkins wasn't interested in changing her pitch for the film, and that Warner Brother Film Group co-chairs and CEOs Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdy, so in this case, like imagine Kathleen Kennedy and Michelle Rejwan, quote, didn't understand her, didn't understand the character, didn't understand character arcs, and didn't understand what Jenkins was trying to do. Jenkins reportedly sent DeLuca an email that included a link to the Wikipedia page for character arc. That's so like, so
that's some good stuff.
Yeah, so like imagine.
Part of me has to imagine the same thing happened with Rogue Squadron.
And Michelle Rejwan is the one who has been reportedly had the most disagreements with her, because she's, Kathy is the president, yes, but Michelle has been not anymore. Right now, she's working hands-on with Acolyte because that's what she's doing. But people like to frame it as a demotion. I don't know, that's all very nebulous. But she was she was the more active producer from like the years 2019 to 2022. The stuff that was being worked on, Michelle was like, I know that was her job, and so she was trying to get the film stuff off the ground. And if she's getting sent like Wikipedia pages about,
Wikipedia.
I know, I'm saying
Just the-
Wikipedia. Like, what if like Patty was like trying to be like, actually, this
yeah,
video,
that's
like,
the thing. I mean, that's with Wonder Woman. I have less of a hot take on this. But with Star Wars, it's just like, and they're definitely going to be in high alert after Last Jedi and Tross. Like, I think they're listening to the fans more in terms of like messing with stuff. Levi might disagree with that. I know he does, but shrug.
it happens.
I just I don't know if Patty was really coming at something that is so absurd that they're like, you can't make this movie, and you know, looking back a year ago, maybe we're not so sure, but I think with this new Wonder Woman stuff, we can sort of put the pieces together, and we have to assume that the same thing happened.
I think it says a lot about Patty. Maybe I don't want to just be like a Patty Jenkins smear session, but I think it says a lot about at least the projects that in 2020, December of 2020, when Rogue Squadron was announced, the movie had already been in production, like pre-production, for about 6 months in terms of they had a script. And it actually, I'm sorry, in terms of pre-production, and that means like building sets and stuff, it was in pre-production. At the same time, the same day that she filmed the video with that on the runway or whatever with the X-Wing and her story about her dad, the Acolyte was also announced. And that project has moved smoothly along. Like, you know, and it was further behind in the process. It's a TV show. It takes even longer. And Leslie Headland, who's been very open this whole time about her creative process and talking with the fans on podcasts about what she's interested in and what she's not. I think maybe it does say something about the way she. And right now we're looking at set. We just looked at set photos of the project. We go, wow, that looks like Star Wars. That looks good. So, you know, maybe Patty was sending them some bad emails.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty simple for me, right? Like if it was really so bad that they're like, we can't come to terms on this, and it's just, then I don't want to see it. If it's like it's gonna mess with Star Wars that much, then just go and make a fighter jet movie. And just
especially in the year 2022, this movie was originally slated to come out in 2023. Especially after Top Gun Maverick just came out, where
and the new like Jonathan Majors movie, like Devotion. Like,
I saw it.
You saw it?
I did.
Was it good? It looks like it's riding on the coattails of Top Gun, which we know it wasn't, because I'm sure it was being made way before Top Gun.
You know, okay, this is, you know, here, that is, Ben, you don't even know how good of a segue that was. Or not even segue, but bringing that up. So Devotion, right? I went to go see it because it was directed by J.D. Dillard, and J.D. Dillard was supposed to be making a Star Wars project, and this was the movie that he was making because his Star Wars project didn't work out. And so I wanted to see maybe if he took any of the ideas into it, or, you know, how it would go. And like I think I came out with mixed feelings. The movie I'd give like a 7, a strong Levi 7. I think I said
Levi 7's like a Gibbs 5.
Well, I think you would probably also think it's a 7.
Well, you know what? I bet you that Jonathan Majors is really great, but
because it's a good movie. Like, it has the potential. Let me just read you my review for it. I wrote a little Letterboxd review.
Devotion podcast.
I think I wrote, the potential for greatness, but paced like a sloth running through glue. Like, the movie, like, you're like, oh wow, this is good, and you're like, are we ending? What's happening? And then it just keeps going, and it happens like
a Top Gun fan. The new one.
Maverick? I like Maverick more than the original.
Oh, I think most people do. It's a much better movie. Maverick was great. I'm just comparing them because they're
but that's the thing.
jet movies.
The movie isn't really a fighter jet movie.
That's not. It's advertised.
It's advertised as one. It isn't. And so it's a movie. It's like a biopic sort of about, you know, I don't know. It's good. Like, it has a lot of great character work. Jonathan Majors is great in it, and it even has the guy from Top Gun, the white guy, the two lead. The one guy he did 2. What's his name?
Maverick or one?
Maverick. He was like the Han Solo in Maverick.
Hangman.
Yeah, he's
I don't know his name. The actor.
He's on the poster. It's
probably have a point that relates
Glenn Powell
to something we talk about here. If you're just going on a Devotion rant.
Well, no, because J.D. Dillard made it, and he was Star Wars. He was attached to Star Wars, and he got to make this other project because Star Wars didn't work out. And in terms of Patty Jenkins, like, she just might not make anything. But anyway, like I went to see it and I was thinking about how because JD Dillard was rumored to be working on a thing for Finn, and I could see why. He's telling the story about, and I don't want to go on a whole devotion devotion rant, but after watching it, I don't think I agree, or at least in my heart I don't share the same feeling with you of like maybe, I mean I do but I don't, of like, oh, if the studio didn't want it to be made, it shouldn't be made. Like I'm the kind of person who I want to see like every unfinished Star Wars idea in some way, which is I
Yeah,
know
but if you're
but
talking, and if it's a TV
I
show,
know
maybe
I
I'm with
know
you. But if it's a
I
movie and
know
it's the first one, it's
I
such a
know I know
big
no no
deal.
no, it's a total monkey's paw. And most times, because I'm the one defending Kathy, like I think she's right, but it is, there's so much of like I would love to see the Lord and Miller solo cut. I would love to see what Gareth Edwards Rogue One looked like. I want to see what the original Tross looked like I want to see all that kind of stuff, where, or Michael Arndt's episode 7, like shit like that, or Colin Trevorrow's episode 9, Duel of the Fates.
I get that, but that's just because you
But
want more
I know it's
Star
because
Wars
I know
because
it's
you
because,
like Star Wars.
exactly
And but the
and
issue with that is that
I was having this realization, what I'm trying to get to is, what I was having this realization as I watched Devotion was, yeah, I don't know if this would have totally gelled with Star Wars, like this guy's style. I was like, I don't know if this would really fit. And I was sort of having that with Patty Jenkins of, yeah, maybe that Rogue Squadron thing was never a good idea. Like,
yeah, that's what I've been saying for a while now.
yeah, that was the point I was trying to get to. It.
Yeah, okay. It took you a while to get there, but
it did, because I like talking. There's a lot to be said. I don't know. It just sucks though, because now we don't have a movie.
I know, but I'm just like, with Star Wars, like I've always thought that less is more. Like honestly, more just in the approach that like when you're gonna go do something, you go and do it right. You don't overmake things. And I think Kenobi had this issue, and if you're gonna make an entry into the Star Wars universe, whether it be a movie, a TV show, a video game, a comic book, a book, it has a certain standard it needs to hit, and it needs to gel with everything else, because it's a connective tissue. I mean, just like the MCU in a different way, but it's an entry into the Star Wars story, and pretty much everything we've had somewhat relates to the entire main saga. Right now, even Acolyte is going to do that. I don't know if there's going to be a High Republic show. Maybe that won't. Taika Waititi's movie is supposed to be like unrelated.
Maybe, I mean,
but up until now, we haven't gotten anything that's not related to the main story. So I'd have to assume that Rogue Squadron would follow suit. And if it's not going to service the, 6 movies, or 9, depending on how you look at it, it's not worth getting made, in my opinion. That's my point. It's that I don't want it if it's not going to service the story. And everything I've heard about this Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron, if Kathy and Michelle don't want it, then I'll face them.
That was sort of what I was coming around to, because recently JD Dillard, the story came out because he was on the tour for Devotion and people were asking about it, and he made the comment that his project didn't get made, but not for lack of trying. And he sort of like backhandedly, that wasn't backhanded, I don't want to say that, but he made reference to the fact that they tried. It was another creative differences thing,
and they're really picky about this stuff. Because even look at the Dumb and Dumber, that's what I call them, because I forgot their names always.
David Benioff and DB
Weiss. Yeah, Benioff and Weiss, or Wes, whatever you want to call them. I mean, they were supposed to have a trilogy, man, like, and then even Taika, this is just speculation.
I don't want Taika's movie. I don't want Taika's movie.
I know, but I'm saying is that like that was supposed to be the next thing up, and part of me thinks that because of Thor: Love and Thunder, that it got pushed to the back burner.
Which sucks though, because I want Taika's. It's funny because people don't ever talk about this when they talk about Taika's movie, but it's being written by Christy Wilson Cairns, who wrote 1917, and I want to see a Star Wars script by her, but I don't want to see Taika direct.
I think you're being a little too linear, though, in terms of how one director's style with another movie is going to translate into Star Wars. Because when I look at Knives Out, like I wouldn't watch Knives Out and be like, this style would work great in a Star Wars movie. It's like Rian Johnson just did something completely different.
And I'm being hypocritical too and inconsistent, because I always say that Taika has done Star Wars already. I mean, he directed the Mando finale, and it was. I know,
and that was it's an underrated episode. I mean, it's a fantastic episode.
But I am more sharing that sentiment because just the way he was on the press tour, He just didn't seem like he cared at all about it.
No, but I think he gives off that demeanor of being sort of
Yeah,
carefree.
I know.
But I don't know. I think Taika, for better or worse, when he makes a movie, like he puts all of him into it.
Yeah. I
Thor:
love
Love
his
and
work for
Thunder.
the one.
I think, yeah. I
I
mean,
love
this guy
Jojo
likes
Rabbit,
Thor:
and
Love and Thunder.
I don't love Thor: Love and Thunder. I mean, I do like
You
it, but
liked it.
I meant his other movies
His
I
other
love.
work, yeah.
Yeah.
Jojo Rabbit is amazing.
What We Do in the Shadows, great. I love the show. I love the movie.
Yeah, he has that new
Love.
like pirate show.
Yep,
I haven't
yep.
seen that, but
He's good. I like Taika's output. He's a
he
funny guy.
when you see a product, it's undeniably Taika. And what we knew about the movie is that it was not going to have any relation to the 9 movies. It was going to be very separate, a very separate story. He was very adamant about telling a story that was unique in its own thing. And part of me thinks that was a perfect blend for a Taika movie. Like I think if we were going to get a Taika Star Wars, I would want
still
it
like
to be unrelated to everything and just go full on Taika.
maybe yeah, I don't
But
know.
after Love and Thunder, I'm a little more down on it, just for the fact that like that movie was too much Taika, right? Ragnarok
Exactly.
hit that perfect mix of
But even then, like I think his Mando ep worked just because of like you even saw it at the table and in the behind the scenes in the gallery. Like everyone was on set with him. It wasn't like everyone was collaborating, you know? It wasn't just Taika where I
Love
got
and
nervous.
Thunder.
I get nervous about just Taika being
But it
like
wouldn't be because you were just mentioning some writers right there who wrote 1917.
well, yeah, but wrote the script, but him like I'm thinking about the direction, and it's not because I don't like it. It's just because I don't know if I want to see it gel in Star Wars.
Well, let's put it this way. So if Love and Thunder is just like, I think a lot of people consider it to be that the MCU like on crack, right? It's just like take everything about the MCU, you know, the sort of like
The humor,
slapsticky, punchy humor,
the plot, yeah,
the plot,
it's
and just like ramp it up to 10 and just like go full on. So how does that look like with Star Wars? Like, what do you do if you take a Star Wars movie and you just ramp up the Star Wars to 10?
it looks like
Which is
Tross is what it looks like.
honestly, I mean, I wouldn't even see the prequels are sort of like that. If you're taking the OT and being like, let's do this times 2, like more aliens, more ships, you know, more
Yeah,
lightsaber battles.
you know what? Yeah,
like,
I think it looks like The Rise of Skywalker and Attack of the Clones. I think that's what it looks like.
yeah, to you know,
My personal least 2 favorite Star Wars movies, but that's what that's
no,
that's
I
neither
mean,
here nor there.
it's just more of a rhetorical question. It's just like, what does that look like at Star Wars in which it is like blown out to the limit? And I think that could be a very fun thing, but it's not what I want to be the first movie we're
and it's
getting
not.
since Tross.
The way that Star Wars is going to evolve, it has to be like, at least in my opinion, and I think your opinion too, more akin to what Tony Gilroy is doing, where it's Star Wars has always been, it has to be something new. And some people don't like the sequels because they don't feel new. The reason why I like the sequels, to make myself seem consistent, is that they're the first projects where they're being based like on Star Wars, if that makes any sense. Like they're not George making something new, or like they
I think
are.
you just contradicted yourself though, because
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying like they are adapting. They're meta. They're very like they are like their genre is Star Wars, and so I think it's an interesting, like they are the first things made by, I don't know. I just think it's interesting. Someone.
So first thing that comes to mind here is Mando, and sort of this idea of applying a genre and mixing it with Star Wars, right? So you take this sort of Western gunslinger thing and throw it.
It's what Jon Favreau said. Is what they're doing is they're looking at the inspirations of Star Wars, not at Star Wars itself. Whereas the sequels look at Star Wars as the inspiration, if that makes any sense. Like when you watch the episode The Jedi, it's just Yojimbo, you know, like almost shot for shot in some scenes. Like Dave is looking at Kurosawa samurai films and adapting it into Star Wars for that story. It is not adapting a Star Wars thing into Star Wars again. Like, you know, go watch Artur's video about Mandalorian and the Gunslinger's Odyssey. Like that is, I'm talking to the audience. They're, you know, he shows.
Forgot about them.
He showed, they're here.
They're here.
He shows how the difference between adapting Star Wars and then adapting something for Star Wars. I think there's,
yeah, but I don't know. At the end of the day, though, like I think,
and what Taika would do, if what you're saying in your analogy, what Taika would be doing would be taking just Star Wars the same way that the sequels did, and then yes, turning it up to 11. I don't think I want to see that.
I think that at the end of the day, though, like every good Star Wars project sort of has the same like heart in it, and it's something you can't really define, can't really put your finger on it, but you know it's there, right? And I think Andor was fantastic, but a lot of the complaints is it doesn't feel like Star Wars, and part of me understands why people felt that way. I don't buy into it, but I sort of understand it to a certain extent. So at the end of the day, that's the most important thing for me, right? And like I don't think anything has quite matched it since the OT, and maybe it just because it has the nostalgia factor on there. But
The Last Jedi.
George Lucas approach is always like sort of take these moral quandaries and sort of put them into a mythological setting. And look at Willow. Look at Levi's favorite Willow movie, which is the exact same thing. Which is
My favorite Willow movie, the only Willow movie.
No, sorry, I just meant his favorite movie. Ever.
Wow.
Joke. But this guy loves Willow over here. All right.
I think the show is better than the movie, but
interesting take 3 episodes in.
The first
my point being though is that they're very similar, Willow and Star Wars, in that sense of that primarily meant for children initially. Willow obviously only had 1 entry, where Star Wars has had a lot more, many. But it's just the same idea of taking a children's moral quandary and putting it into a mythological setting. And if you have that at the heart of everything, and even Andor a little more adult, but it's still the same idea of fascism and oppression and what leads to people standing up and rebelling against it. And I think that it's just that story put into a mythological setting of it being Star Wars. So I think that anything can be Star Wars if you come at it with that approach. And I don't know if the sequels did that.
I think what you're describing is why I like the sequels, because the mythological question is about the burden of in the abstract, the burden of the genre. I mean, Rey is literally growing up in this graveyard of the previous generation, but in the context of like the media environment, it's literally like that is the OT. Like that they had to create this material in this like it's so I think it's
I know,
so
but it spends too much time dwelling in that graveyard.
See, I think I disagree with that.
It got too caught up in it. They tried too hard to hit the mark and they missed.
I think that's a criticism you can levy at The Rise of Skywalker. I don't think it's one you could levy at Force Awakens.
Sure. Well, trust him at least. No, I like Force Awakens and
Last Jedi, because I think Last Jedi is the most like George. I think that is the one that takes the most like we are taking an idea about, and that one it's about the burden of the responsibility of.
And I agree in terms
legacy and like putting that mythological spin.
I agree in its inception. On execution and some of the story elements, it's not my favorite. But you're right.
We are what they grow beyond.
What makes a good Star Wars project is that sort of heart and like ideology attached to it. So when we're just talking about making like a Taika movie or a Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron or whatever it is, as long as it has that at the heart of it, which Andor does.
I don't think. The more we talk about it, I don't think a Patty movie would have had.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Exactly. And all that to finish up at the point of just, I don't think that was ever going to happen with the Patty movie, which is I think why they turned it away. I don't know what the heart was behind that movie. I don't really.
And it's funny because we went on that whole side path because you brought up devotion and I went on the devotion tangent. But the point initially that we're going to try to make is that in the aftermath of all this like fighter, people are like they've seen some good movies solely based on fighter pilots recently. You would have to, like the bar for an X-Wing movie based on just fighter pilots would be so high. Top Gun is one of the highest grossing movies period ever. Like people have seen that movie. Maverick, they know it. They are familiar, and that movie itself is already like just a clone of Star Wars in terms of the like plot structure. It literally is just A New Hope. It's kind of crazy actually when you see it later on top of each other, but I still love it for one. But it's people would have such high standards. Like Rogue Squadron could have been another Solo in the box office. Like people would have been like,
probably.
I think it would have just been like, oh, whatever. It makes
Okay,
$400
well,
million.
Solo had the issue of the way it was marketed, so we have really no way of knowing what the marketing would be like.
True, I think Solo, yeah, whatever. But the point is, I think it could have potential for bomb
No,
material.
and I know. So you went on your devotion path. I went down my heart of Star Wars path. Let me just put this very simply put. I have seen only one Patty Jenkins movie that I have thought is more than okay.
And even then, you just thought it was okay.
Which
and
which is Wonder Woman 1, which like I think I'm not as hot in that movie as other people. I don't think it's bad, but I think the third act is pretty awful. So
and even then, its production dubious at best.
I know
Many people involved.
So very simply put, just if they're not rocking with whatever Patty put in the table, then I'm not losing sleep over not getting it.
I'm beating myself up about not because we're getting across this my analogy about the sequels correctly, because I heard it. I don't know. I had an epiphany about it, and I totally butchered it, but it's whatever. I think we've said what there needs to be said about Rogue Squadron, and we're 45 minutes in here. It's sort of a slow news week. Is there much else we need? Anything else on the brain?
I enjoy when we have a slow news week because we can really get into the nitty gritty on on stuff like this, on why Rogue Squadron shouldn't get
it.
No, but seriously though, I mean, it's a fun conversation.
It is. It is. Additionally, though, a shame because the biggest takeaway for most people is that we still don't know when another Star Wars movie is coming out, which is kind of an absurd way that we are. Even though I think Star Wars is, I'm the most optimistic about Star Wars I've been in a while, especially just after
March
Andor,
Madness on the way up.
With March Madness on the way, with Andor, with these Acolyte set photos, with knowing, that we're gonna get Mando, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew next year. That's got me excited. Like, that has me really excited for the future. But it is just kind of insane on surface value, the fact we just don't know.
No, they're going on the TV shows right now.
Only not only what the next Star Wars movie is, but when it's even coming out. Because there's one slated for 2025. Will it hit the date? We don't know. There's one slated for now. One was supposed to come out literally in a couple days. 2022, literally a couple days from now. It was supposed to come out like December 13th or whatever.
Can you imagine if we were getting together for a Star Wars movie?
That'd be nuts.
It would be nuts, but I think we're in a good place, and I don't know. I'm excited. Like, I think they need to do another animated movie. I'm just gonna say that.
I didn't even consider that.
I think like Clone Wars animation, like just do another movie. Like,
well, I always thought about it as like they would do Disney Plus specials, like they would adapt. That's how they could do like, oh, we're doing Dark Disciple. It's like an hour and a half or 80 minutes of animation.
Give me an animated movie. You could have an animated movie out by 2020, like late 2020.
But you're saying like theatrically release it. See, I'm saying
absolutely.
Disney Plus,
and maybe do like maybe do a sort of like a Glass Onion type rollout where you do a sort of a limited release window in theaters.
That story. They should have had that thing in theaters for way longer.
Absolutely. But I can see something like that working for an animated Star Wars. But make that happen, because they could have that out by late 2023, 2024. And hold us over on the movies, and it'll probably be awesome, because Clone Wars movie lover right here. Hate to say it, Assault on Teth, goated. So
I got two Clone Wars movie lovers right here. It's our first Star Wars movie.
It's true. Also, there was supposed to be a Michael Keaton Batman movie, and there's going to be Batman Beyond.
Yeah, we'll drop that in the end there.
Last little piece of news we were supposed to talk about, but we didn't get to it.
There's a lot that's just been stolen. Well, it's not stolen, but
DC is a mess. I don't even want to talk about how much of a mess DC is. It's just...
but it's in the same vein, though, as that does sound cool, but it's in the same vein as what we just talked about. Or when I was like, I want to see, I do sometimes have the feeling of like, I want to see all those projects finished. But ultimately, between Walter Hamada, between, Toby Emmerich, between now James Gunn, and there were so many projects that I imagine were thrown out there as ideas that we don't know how far.
Yeah, I know, but
even Duel of the Fates
is different than Star Wars for me. Like, movies are not getting made over there because of corporate incompetence, and like they don't know what the hell they're doing. It's different than like Michelle and Kathy like maybe not vibing with whatever Patty Jenkins put on the table, versus like if a movie doesn't get made at DC, it's just because they can't find the money for it because they're a bunch of greedy like evil cartoon villains. And I love Batman Returns, and we're coming up on. It's Christmas, like it's nearly Batman Returns, like rewatch time.
It's my favorite. It's one of my favorite Batman movies.
It absolutely, it's an amazing take, and Michelle Pfeiffer is just amazing in it. She was allegedly going to be in this new Keaton movie, so
it's just disappointing.
It's sad, but I think that's all we have to talk about. So you want to send us out, Levi?
Sure. I mean, thank you guys for watching. As always, a nice shorter pod for you. Hopefully, Johnny will be back shortly. He's busy. You know how he is. Film.
I'm busy. It's finals week
Everyone's busy. It's
for all those
finals week.
college, all those college
Yeah, all those
students
college
out
kids out
there.
there, they get it. And he's doing the film and school, and yeah, you gotta be on set. You gotta film. It's all good. But thank you guys so much for watching. Check us out on all the socials in the description. As always, leave a comment. What should you comment about? Would you want to see Patty Jenkins?
Yeah, that's that's what we've been talking about.
We've been talking about that's the topic of the show. Do you want to see it happen? Would you you're like, after what you've heard, you're like, if people say she's crazy, I don't want it. I don't know, let us know in the comments down below. Thank you guys again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye everybody.